Hi guys, and welcome back to your advent calendar. We're gonna crack on with the 17th of December. Woohoo! Happy days, happy days. So I'm just gonna start. The Christmas Mystery by Jostein Gaarder. December the 17th. On December the 17th, Joachim woke up first. He even opened the magic advent calendar before Mom and Papa got up. The picture was of an entire procession of pilgrims on the way down a steep mountainside. The minute he had unfolded the thin piece of paper, Papa came in. "You haven't opened it already, have you?" he asked. Joachim started. "Yes, but I haven't read the piece of paper." And Papa hurried into the bedroom and got Mama out of bed. She wasn't even allowed to brush her teeth first. They sat down on the edge of the bed and peered at the piece of paper. It was Papa's turn to read. It was the very end of the 6th century. Across the Macedonian chain of mountains sped a long procession of pilgrims. Down on the bank of the Axios River, a sheep farmer looked up at the mountains. First, he saw the 7 goldly sheep rolling down the mountainside like a pearl necklace. Around them fluttered a white bird. Behind the sheep came 4 men, one of them holding a shepherd's crook in his hand. Behind the 4 shepherds came even more people. The amazing sight lasted only a second or two, then it was gone. The sheep farmer rubbed his eyes, but remembered that his father had told him of having a similar vision many years ago. A little further down the Axios Valley, he had seen a mysterious company escorted by 2 angels. Long after the vision of Pilgrim's procession had gone, the sheep farmer realized that the white bird had not been a bird at all. He, too, had seen one of the angels of the Lord. The pilgrims followed the river down to where it ran out into the Thermaic Gulf in the Aegean Sea. Elizabeth had never seen such blue water. Ephriel pointed up at a mountain peak far away to the right of the gulf they were gazing at. "That's Mount Olympus. In the old days, the Greeks believed the gods lived there. They were called Zeus and Apollo, Athena and Aphrodite. But now, angel time tells us that 569 years have passed since the birth of Jesus, and no one believes in the Greek gods anymore." "Do they believe in Jesus?" asked Elizabeth. The angel nodded. "But it's only about 40 years since the church closed the academy, the ancient schools of philosophy in Athens. That was founded almost 1,000 years ago by a famous philosopher called Plato. Why did they close the old school?" Ephriel said something that Elizabeth hid in her heart. "Many things have been done in the name of Jesus that do not please heaven. Jesus wanted to talk to everyone. He never expected people to keep their opinions to themselves. Only a few years later, Paul came to Athens. He was the first great missionary for Christendom, and when he arrived in Athens, he wanted to speak with the Greek philosophers. He asked them to listen to the words of the Lord, but he wanted to hear what they thought as well. He couldn't say anymore because Joshua struck the ground with his shepherd's crook and said, 'To Bethlehem! To Bethlehem!' After a while, they came to a city located at the innermost point of the gulf. Ephriel said that the time was 551 and that the city was called Thessalonica, and that the Romans had made it the capital of Macedonia. As early as 50 years after the birth of Jesus, Paul established a Christian community here, and we're still a long way from the Holy Land. Paul wrote 2 letters to the Christians in the city. We can read them to this day, for both those letters are in the Bible." Elizabeth thought about the angel's words. She had not realized that it was possible to keep a few letters for so long. They entered the city by the town gate. It was early in the morning, and hardly a soul was to be seen in the streets. Ephriel pointed to the many churches and said that some of them were several hundred years old. He stopped by one of them and said, 1,500 years shall pass, and this church of St. George will stand here. They sped east and soon came to another city. This is Philippi, said Ephriel. Here Paul made his first speech on European soil. Here he established the first Christian community in Europe. In the Bible there is a letter which he wrote to the Philippians when he was imprisoned because of his faith. Ephriel pointed to an octagonal church. All of a sudden, one of the doors was opened from the inside. Ephriel had already started to say, "Fear not," when out of the octagonal church strode another angel. He took a few steps towards Elizabeth and said, "Greetings, my daughter. I am Ephriel, and I am coming with you to Bethlehem to welcome the Christ child into the world." Joshua struck his shepherd's crook against the church wall. "To Bethlehem! To Bethlehem!" They set off along the old road between Ionian Sea and Constantinople. Ephriel told them that the road was called the Via Egnatia. They stormed eastward. As they ran, Ephriel said, "The time is 511 after Christ, and we shall be in Constantinople before it's 500. Papa looked in the atlas to see which way the pilgrims had gone. Here's Macedonian mountain chain. Then they came down to the Axios River, that's there, and this is the Thermaic Gulf. When they were standing here, they can see Mount Olympus on the right. That's correct, yes, it all fits." He opened the second atlas, the one that showed how the countries of Europe had looked in the 6th century. "The Via Egnatia must be this road," he said. "Here you see Thessalonica and Philippi." "Isn't there a map of Pole travellers?" Mom wanted to know. Papa paged through the atlas. Joachim thought that was a little magical too, since it showed how the world had looked in every age. It even showed cities that had been buried in earth and sand many, many years ago. "Here it is!" exclaimed Papa. He had found the map that showed Paul's 4 great missionary journeys. Paul visited Philippi and Thessalonica on his 2nd journey. When Joachim came home from school, the telephone was ringing. He thought it must be Mama or Papa because they sometimes called to tell him they would be home a little later, or to say he could find something to eat in the refrigerator. He hated that more than anything. He lifted the receiver. "Hello? It's John." What should he say? Joachim thought hard, then repeated the phrase Mama usually used when he had been playing with a friend and had come home much too late. "Where have you been?" he asked. "I'm somewhere out in the wilderness," John said. "We can meet some other time. I just wanted to know how it's going with the Magic Advent Calendar." "Fine," said Joachim. "It's like having a birthday every day, because now Mom and Papa are reading all the pieces of paper too. We do it together." "Is that so? It's still possible to read them then?" Joachim didn't understand what he meant. "We read them every day." "Fine, yes, that's fine. Where are the pilgrims now?" "I think it's called Philippi," said Joachim. "We've looked it up in the map." "That's good. That was the point of it too." "Oh? But Joachim?" "Yes?" "What do you think the Greek sheep farmer thought when he saw the angel procession coming down through the Axios Valley?" "I'm sure he was very frightened," said Joachim. "You can say that again." "There are a lot of things Mom and Papa want to ask you about," continued Joachim. "Can you come and have coffee with us?" John laughed, and then he said, "It's not Christmas yet." "You can have a coffee and cake anyway. We baked a lot already." He was suddenly afraid that John might stop talking, so he quickly asked, "Are you sure the woman in the photo is called Elizabeth?" "I'm almost sure," said John. "If not, she's called Thebasila." Joachim thought of the strange advent calendar Quirinius had given Elizabeth, and he thought of what John had said when they met by the garden gate. "Perhaps she's called both," he said. "Perhaps she's called Elizabeth Thebasila." There was a long silence. "Yes," Maybe so. Maybe so, yes. Was she Norwegian? John sighed. Yes and no. She was from Palestine, from a little village near Bethlehem. She said she was a Palestinian refugee, but it seems she was born in Norway. The whole thing is so strange. So she ran to Bethlehem with the cereal and the little lamb, asked Joachim breathlessly. What a lot of questions, said John. But now I must hang up. We must learn to wait, you see, Joachim. Did you know that Advent means something that is to come? And he hung up. Joachim couldn't concentrate on anything until Mama and Papa came home. He had to tell them about John's phone call over and over again because Papa wanted to be absolutely sure John hadn't said anything important that Joachim had forgotten. Elizabeth Tebasile, he muttered. There can't be anyone called that. But there was something else. Joachim knew that a refugee was someone who had to flee from his or her own country because of war and danger. But he didn't know that anyone had to flee from Bethlehem. Papa consulted the atlas again. He told Joachim that many people in the villages around Bethlehem had to move because of war. Some of them had lost all their possessions and were in such difficulties they had to live in refugee camps. A good Samaritan should have come to help them, Joachim said, because Jesus wanted to teach people to help one another when in need, and then there would have been peace, for peace is a message of Christmas. You know what, I totally agree on that, Joachim. Peace is the message of Christmas. Yes. Peace is the message of Christmas. It's quite lovely, wasn't it? Anyway, that rounds up chapter 17. We have about 6 chapters left. Oh, exciting, guys. I hope you're just as excited as I am. I know I keep saying that, but I really mean it. Anyway, I love you all, and I'll see you later.